Hey everybody, it's Scott Dikkers live on Facebook and YouTube. That took me a second because I'm trying a little technical thing here. My microphones aren't working, so read that if you plug it in after you go live, it has a chance of working. So we'll see what happens. I think I need to upgrade. So first things first, need to explain that Trump picture behind me. That Trump picture behind me was a gift from my team of writers who worked with me on the book Trump's America. Buy this book and Mexico will pay for it. It's a funny book that imagines what craziness would happen if Donald Trump were elected president. And we wrote that in the fall of 2015, before he was even nominated by the Republican Party. And it's a full color, beautiful, funny book filled with jokes and charts. And so much of the book has come true, which is delightful. But anyway, at the book release party, they gave me this wonderful fake photo signed by Donald Trump. We scanned his handwriting to create a font so that when we needed his handwriting in the book, we could just type it. And so they used that on the book to sign it to me. And it's a picture of Trump holding the book. And he's saying, Scott, this book is a disaster. So that's the story behind that, that picture behind me. I am the founder of How to Write Funny, New York Times bestselling author of the How to Write Funny book series. And I'm here now to answer the question I get asked most of all, which is, how do you get funny ideas? People need to know this. If they're going to write funny ideas, where do they come from? Where do you get them? And I have a joke for this when people ask me this. And it's a dry joke, and people don't usually laugh. In fact, they get intrigued at first. They're like, oh, really? The joke is, oh, I subscribe to Funny Ideas magazine. It comes every month. It's filled with great funny ideas. And that's how I come up with all my funny ideas. That's how we do it at The Onion. That's how we would always generate the headlines and all the jokes and stories in The Onion. You know, it comes in Funny Ideas magazine. Really inexpensive. It's like $30 a month subscription. So obviously, funny ideas come from our heads. And I think people are confused as to how do you dredge them up. And so I'm going to explain how to do that. Anyone can do it. It's not something that only comedy writing people can do. I have seen hundreds of people come through my classes and learn these basic techniques and generate really funny ideas. We all have them. We were all once children who said whatever came to our minds. We had no filter, and we amused ourselves. And as we grow up, we lose that. So as we grow up, we want to be civilized, and we want to be buttoned up, and we don't want to be silly. And so we learn to repress that childlike instinct that creates or that makes creativity, that playful instinct. And there are ways that you can cultivate that and get that back. But you're fighting against, years of repression, depending on how old you are. This is why you see more young people in comedy. There are more 20-year-olds fresh out of college writing comedy on TV sitcoms and other professional atmosphere like late night TV talk show, etc., than there are older people, because they're closer to that childlike state of pure creativity. And so they haven't lost it yet. Society, civilization, socialization hasn't beat it out of them yet. For many others, it has. If you're a 55-year-old insurance actuary in Nebraska, it's probably well beat out of you, but that doesn't mean you can't get it back. So here's how you get it back. Adam, thank you for your question. Will I go through a few current headlines and let us see you use the funny filters? That's a great idea. I will do that in a future video. Yeah, that's a great idea. Just analyze some headline jokes from The Onion and explain the funny filters that work. The funny filters are the means by which humor is created out of ideas explained in my book, How to Write Funny. Today, just talking about how do you come up with the ideas. So there are two main ways to cultivate that. The first is to open yourself up to these momentary spurts of inspiration that you get. We all have random thoughts. Our brains wander, and we teeter around that playful part of our childlike brains, whether we know it or not. And we come up with silly ideas that amuse ourselves. We might be in the shower, we might be doing dishes, we might be falling asleep, walking down the street, anything. The most important thing you need to do is capture those. So write them down in your phone, in a little notebook app, or put them in a literal notebook, whatever you need to do, get those down. This phone is being funny. Okay. Write those down, capture those, because those are the raw material that you can finesse later on to create great, funny ideas. What you do is you write them down, you put them somewhere, you forget about them, and you look at them in a week or two after you've forgotten them, and some of them are still going to strike you as amusing, and you're going to be able to work with that. Out of the scope of this particular video, but that's step one. Capture that lightning in a bottle when it happens. Two is quite the opposite. You're going to churn up those ideas. You're going to dredge up those ideas from your inner subconscious on purpose. You're not just going to wait for inspiration to strike. And the way you do that is with this beautiful exercise called the morning pages, which comes from Dorothy Brandeis's book on becoming a writer, ancient book. It was popularized by the more recent book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's a powerful exercise that allows you to unlock all of that playful, childlike brain activity that you have learned to repress. And here's how it works. For a half an hour a day, you sit down and you write. And you don't judge what you write. You don't stop writing. You just plow ahead. And you're going to write garbage. You're going to write absolute garbage. Just like if you were priming a pump. I don't know if any of you grew up on a farm like I did and you remember the old outdoor well pump. You pump it to get the water coming up, and the first water that comes up is all filled with dirt and rust. And after that stuff comes out, it's pure well water, delicious drinking water. Same thing with your brain. You need to churn out garbage. And that's what this exercise does. For a half an hour, you're just pouring out nonsense. Now, a lot of people have a problem with this exercise because it's scary for them to write bad things. You have to get over that. If you want to write funny ideas, you're going to have to sift through a lot of unfunny stuff to get there. So you're going to sift through all this garbage, you're going to drudge it up, and you're going to write it down, and you're never going to show this to anybody. You're not even going to use this. It's an exercise. There might be some funny ideas that you generate in there, way down deep in the pile. And again, you can hold on to it for a week or two, just like you did the ideas that you wrote in the notebook, and see if there are useful ideas later on, if they still strike you as funny. But for the most part, you're just going to discard these ideas and just use this as an exercise. You do this every day, and eventually, depending on how blocked you are, how repressed you are, you will unleash the floodgates. And what will happen at some point is you won't be able to stop writing. That 30 minutes will go by, you'll get in the zone, and you'll be writing for 2 hours and you won't realize where the time went. This is the state that you need to get to be a creative writer, to be a comedian, to come up with funny ideas. All of the professional comedy writers I know have this quality where they have funny ideas bubbling out of them because they've tapped that magic, childlike part of their brain that still generates really funny ideas all the time. How long it's going to take, again, it depends on the person. Everybody's different. But once it takes hold, you're going to have a hard time controlling this spewing well water that's just coming out of you, pouring out ideas. And again, most of it's going to be garbage. But the point is, you're producing the raw material. It's the same raw material that every comedy writer, anyone who comes up with funny ideas, needs to create funny ideas. You're going to go through this stuff, sift through it, and like a needle in a haystack, you're going to find, that's a funny, idea that I could work with. That could be an idea for a joke or a tweet or a story or a book or a screenplay or a project. You're going to come up with these things, And pretty soon, you're not going to have to do the exercise because you're going to wake up motivated to write. That's the great thing about repression, is that it's packed in there pretty powerfully. And when you unlock it, it's a really powerful force. It's like, the force of oil coming up if you're drilling for oil. So that precious crude oil is worth millions. An idea for a book could become a bestseller. An idea for a movie could sell a screenplay for $1 million. Like, that's where all ideas come from. They come from someone's brain, and your brain is no different from anyone else's brain. So that's the answer. It's the real answer. It's not the joke answer. And I hope it helps you. I hope that if you're struggling, if you're blocked, if you're trying to come up with funny ideas, this works. Let me know in the comments if this has happened to you. I'm going to tell you one story before I go about when I went through this process. But if you have a story about how this process has generated creativity for you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And while you're at it, don't forget to like this video if it's helping you out, and subscribe to the channel. Helps me produce more videos like this. So the story I want to tell is, I was the editor of The Onion for a long time, and I would write a story occasionally, but I would go through these long spells where I didn't write anything. I would just edit. Other people would do the raw material generation, the creating, and I would just look at it and say whether it was good or not, and maybe make a couple of tweaks. And I got stuck in editor brain. As I explained in How to Write Funny, the brain has two halves, clown and editor. The clown brain is that creative, childlike brain that you need to cultivate. The editor brain is the brain everyone gets stuck in when they're blocked. It's the judgmental brain that doesn't think anything you do is funny. And it can't create. All it can do is say no. So it makes for a good editor, but doesn't make for a good raw material person. And I was given an assignment by NBC to write a TV special, a comedy TV special. And I sat there at my computer, like staring at a blank screen. I was like, I got nothing. Nothing's coming out. Literally just felt blocked. And so I knew all about this exercise. I knew its power. So I started doing it. First day, I did it for 30 minutes. It was painful because I'm just writing things like, I don't know what to write. This is terrible. I can't write. I'm terrible. I'm not funny. And thank you, Adam. I will try that. And that was it. It was just like trying to do a workout after you haven't worked out for 2 years. Like, everything's sore, nothing's coming easy. It's hard work. You're sweating. You're astounded by how out of shape you are. I get up the next morning and do the same thing. 30 minutes. Write without judgment. Just plow ahead. And don't think about it. Don't judge it. Just keep going. Third day, I do the same thing. By the fourth day, I had unlocked my childlike brain. And what happened was, I just had the inspiration of, oh, I know how to tackle this comedy special. And I started writing it. I didn't even do the morning pages. I got up and I sat right down at my computer, fully motivated, passionately motivated to start writing this project. And I wrote for 4 hours without stopping, and I had written like several pages into the thing. I felt pretty good about it. That's the power of this exercise. It literally is priming the pump to get your creative juices flowing so you can come up with funny ideas. So I hope that helps you. Thanks for joining me tonight. And for more, you can go to howtowritefunny.com. I've got tons of free resources there for comedy writers to learn how to write comedy better. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.